Welcome to episode 5 of Agency Intensive. I'm Richard Hill, your host. Now, in this episode, I speak with Joshua Grant, Director of Digital at Absolute Design. With over 30 years in the game, Absolute Design are well known in their field of Magento and Shopify dev. But it wasn't always like that. We chat building strong strategic partnerships and what Josh and the team look for in potential partners, measuring and improving the productivity of your team, and why Josh and the team decide to focus efforts on running events and how they are securing the right attendees, and managing those difficult clients. Hint, be pretty brutal with them. And so much more in this one. Now, do me one favour, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening to this podcast. You're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this fantastic episode. Hi Josh, how you doing?
Good.
Welcome to Agency Intensive, the podcast for agency owners and aspiring 7-figure agencies.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Well, I am looking forward to this. Josh is somebody that we work with quite closely at the agency at Ecom One. So we thought, let's get Josh on the podcast, Agency Intensive, and chat all things growth and building an agency. So I think best thing to do would be for you to introduce yourself to our listeners and how you got into the world of agencies.
I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I guess I've sort of grown up with ecom. I remember my brother back in the day, sort of end of the dot-com boom. He had quite a successful sort of startup agency, had some really big clients, and I started doing a bit of development for him, helping out around the peripheral because I was quite a bit younger than him. And then I kind of sort of fell into marketing as part of that, and went into the hotel industry. Building a lot of hotel sites and kind of a little bit of ecom. Did that for a few years. Did the usual travelling and, finding your feet. And
Where did you travel?
So I travelled lots over the years, but so I've done the usual sort of, New Zealand, Southeast Asia,
wow.
The backpacker routes.
Yeah.
My parents dragged me from pillar to post when I was sort of young teenager. I lived in New Zealand and Australia with them.
Wow.
And went to school over there. But it was one of those things, I guess, that probably meant that my career path was kind of a little bit more bumpy, I guess. Wasn't kind of like as linear as some people. So ended up, going into marketing for quite a few years for hotels. Met my now wife. We went off to New Zealand together. We met in a hotel. Came back and got a job at an ecom business, looking after their site. So primarily direct to consumer. Did a sort of really good stint there, and actually met the agency that I now work for. So I did a stint there for about, I think, 6 years. And ended up being the ecom manager, multiple sites, sort of grew them massively. The company got acquired from sort of private equity, and it was COVID and everything going on, and a lot of people in the industry kind of had a bit of a change. And the guys at Absolute, I just reached out to them in my day-to-day with them, and said, look, if anything ever comes up, do think about me. And they were like, funny you say that. So I joined the guys. So I've been there 3 years now. Part of the senior team, sort of pivotal in the operations and decision making in the business. So basically, I've known them for about sort of 9-10 years, which I think is really a key in this industry to sort of trust the people you work with. And I think I knew what they could do, knew the team really well, and thought, agency life, I want to have a go and see what it's like. I had dabbles into agency life with sort of my brother's business and things, so I kind of knew that the sort of the way the vibe, I guess. Everyone sort of talks about it, but the agency life's got quite a nice sort of feel to it. And I think that was a big draw. So I'm loving agency life, and I think we've got some great plans going forward. Sort of directing sort of Absolute into sort of a new era, I guess.
Exciting. So started working at another company as a client for Absolute.
Yep.
And then fast forward X amount of years, then working there as a director in the business.
Yep.
And sort of heading up operations. And I know that's obviously quite a broad title, but obviously we'll get into the different things that you're heading up and working on. But obviously in the time that you've been there, 3 years, what would you say has been the sort of the main thing that has led to the success that Absolute's having now?
Yeah, so I think over the years, I think it's relevant now as well. The success of Absolute has been when it's sort of focused on its, what it's good at. And a few years ago, it was becoming a partner with Adobe, for example.
Yeah.
Was a massive thing. A lot of agencies went through that same journey. All of a sudden, accelerated the amount of work coming through the door.
Yeah.
And I think one of the sort of big key successes that is in our roots is we're really good at complex back-end development. And we try not to be a full-service agency. We try to be good at kind of our lane, I guess.
Yep.
And we've invested a lot of time and a lot of process and a lot of, finding the right people for that. And off the back of that, I think that's steered us into a good position for where we are now. A lot of agencies are kind of pulling back from Magento, the Adobe Commerce, and we're winning quite a lot of support counts. So our support team is growing.
Yeah.
Support is becoming bigger and bigger part of the business. It's about 40% of our turnover now.
Support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is massive. And I think we're gradually sort of transitioning some of those accounts into probably Shopify and other platforms that probably suit them a bit better.
Yeah.
And I think that was a sort of key decision. And I think another key decision that was made was to actually not back one horse. And I think a lot of agencies have had to do that and have obviously had to pivot.
Yeah.
And we sort of invested in Shopify quite a few years ago. I had a decent team and sort of recruited well. And that's put us in a good position to start. But we're building some big sites on Shopify now.
Yeah.
And some of the bigger agencies have acquired maybe other agencies to kind of help that pattern. But I think we were lucky that we'd seen that early. So yeah, we're kind of back in two horses at the moment, I guess.
So as in the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an absolute vital and critical point, and we talk about it a lot, but I think for the people that are listening, and they maybe doing a bit of this and a bit of that and not quite sure and taking what they can take, and and I think it's an absolute key decision in any agency to sort of make that right with this and this. You don't have to be completely so narrow, like you say, but you've gone narrow in that, or narrower, that you're e-com.
Yep.
And then within e-com, there are certain platforms. So, okay, we want to be known for this, but it doesn't mean you can't be known for this and this platform as well, and it's similar. We think about our agency, we're known for, working with Shopify store owners, marketeers, but, Shopify makes up, let's say, 30-40% of the market. It's a big part of the market, but Adobe and Magento is obviously also a big part of the market. eCommerce is also a big part of the market. And then you've got the newer brands, or depending on where you're listening to this podcast, the different platforms that are lesser known maybe in Europe, the shop lines, the shopwares, the different platforms that are coming through. It doesn't mean you can't sort of be involved with a few of them, but you're saying, right, we are platform expert. Yep. Adobe, Magento, Shopify, and others I'm sure. But obviously sitting in front of marketing your business, being able to say, right, we do this and this and this. And you speak to that prospect, or that prospect's looking at you guys from afar, never spoken to you in the past. Well, these guys, they focus on this. They don't do SEO. They don't do email. They don't do this. That's great. I think that's a key thing. But I think a lot of agencies struggle in the early days, and understandably so in one respect, because they need to pay the bills, and they're like, oh, we've just won this. What is it? SEO. We don't really do SEO, but yeah, we do now, sort of thing. But it's easy to say stick to one thing, or one focus. But what would you say to those guys that are maybe tussling with trying to make that decision, or make a hard stop and say, no, we're not going to take that, we're just going to take this? What would you say to those guys?
I think as an agency, because we've been around like 30 years, and we started off as a traditional branding sort of design for print agency, and don't get me wrong, we still have our studio and we still have our roots. Yeah. We did the typical path of going into sort of brochure sites and the WordPress thing. E-com obviously blew up, and then we transitioned into going, hang on a minute, what's the best platform to back at that particular time? Yeah. And as an agency, we've been doing Magento for a long time, and I cut a lot of my teeth on that platform, Magento 1, Magento 2. Yeah. And I think it is difficult. Like, we found it a battle where we tried to do too many things, and actually understanding the intrinsic nature of these platforms
really deep,
really need to sort of embed into it. I mean, the SaaS-based stuff like Shopify is probably not quite as bad, but historically with the beast that is Magento, a lot of people have really struggled with that platform. Yeah. It's been hard to sort of build, maintain.
I get a cold sweat every time I hear the word Magento. I get flashbacks from 5-6 years ago when we were that agency maybe 7 years ago, right? A bit too spread. Now we're very laser focused, and the difference, is night and day, really, comparing us to sort of 6-7 years ago. But yeah, Magento had, how can we put it, be polite as possible, but obviously a lot of challenges. Where it's version 1, version 2, deadlines, and a lot of panic in the industry, should we say, and then things not really doing what they should do. And
the upgrade's a bit hard.
Yeah,
12 months, a bit longer ago, the whole industry went through a horrible pain point with upgrades. And, don't get me wrong, trying to keep clients when, you're saying to them, look, you've got to spend a lot of money because Adobe, in their infinite wisdom, have brought out some... And, we understand why, because they're trying to sort of future-proof the sort of base platform, I guess. But it is, it's not for everyone. And I think we've built a team that have been with Magento for a long time to go through those battles and have those frank conversations with clients. And we do try and move people off if it's not the right fit for them. So now there are options for smaller companies. We say to them, look, you've had a Magento site for a long time. It's costing you a lot. Let's do an analysis on your platform here. Let's have a look to see if there's something better for you. And we find that being proactive and doing that for clients really sort of builds that retention. And it's difficult. You never get it perfect, but you just try and do the best you can for your clients, I guess.
So I think that's really going to resonate with the listeners. You sort of were saying, we start out and we maybe build websites for anybody. That's maybe, go back however many years. And, as an agency, you're trying to get that first client, 5th client, 10th client. We broke 100K, now we're doing $500,000. We're trying to hit the mil a year, and we're trying to hit a mil recurring, and all these sort of targets, plateaus that we hit. But really tightening up our, the avatar of the brand. So obviously focusing on Magento, Adobe, and Shopify as an example. Obviously, that's what you guys have done. But how has that made sort of recruiting? Has it made things easier for you because you're very focused?
I think it has. There's pros and cons to that, I guess. One of the big things that we did from the outset was to make sure that all our developers are UK based. So the recruitment pool is obviously a lot stricter in that sense. I think COVID and obviously the way that the industry's moved and business in general has meant that we've allowed people to be slightly further away from the office, but we've kept that core. And I think it has been difficult when the platform was kind of the go-to. Everyone was fighting for the real good candidates. I think it's become a little bit easier with the downturn in the economy. We've last 12 months, 2 years, we've recruited people that have been running their own like freelance small agency type thing. Realised the work's kind of getting a bit more tricky and wanted a bit more stability. But they've got great skill sets. So we found that there's been a little bit.
Do you actively look for those sort of people maybe as well? Like sort of the guys that are maybe working for themselves that they've maybe got 1 team member, 2 team members, but you think, maybe they'll want to consolidate that and have a bit more of a security, as you put it.
I don't think we've actively targeting per se. I think they're wrong. We're kind of always on the lookout for decent Magento developers, as an example. So they naturally kind of migrate to us anyway. If we're in a pickle and someone's left, then recruiters sometimes, because they know where the good guys are, and we all have to use them. But I think Shopify, finding someone, we kind of got a bit of a unicorn with our head Shopify developer. He'd been there in the industry for a long time, but I think he's been with ecom for like 20 years. Like he's been around a long time.
That's a long while.
He's a veteran, and I think he got fed up with kind of the Magento platforms, and the agency that he used to work at kind of pivoted anyway to Shopify. But just having that sort of knowledge really steers the rest of the team. So you can have someone come in that's maybe not as experienced, but because we've got that seniority and we've got our processes in place, you can, as long as they fit culturally, you can soon bring the rest with it. So I think we're quite lucky in that sense. And we're quite lucky on the Magento side as well, that we've got a couple of key people that have been around a long time, understand it so well that as long as people come in and they're willing to sort of learn and grow, we can support that. So
it sounds like you're attracting the talent. Obviously, I think that a lot of that will also come from the fact you're 30 years old, which is quite a unicorn in this game, because there wasn't an internet really 30-ish years ago. So I don't know what you were doing 30 years ago, but I'm sure.
I remember talking to the team about it, that they were, it was back in the days before like computers really existed for like graphic design. So they were actually like cutting things out and sticking it on with
like more design type. Yeah.
It was before like the Photoshops and the illustrators we've got old Macs in the office that are like the green screen style ones. So it's it's unique. I think that they've managed to the business has managed to survive a lot in a lot of stuff.
Sort of gone through those, how can we call it, those transitions from there's this thing called dial-up, and now we're on the internet, and now we've got a website that looks like a Excel sheet, and now we've got a graphic on the internet. Wow. And now obviously 20 years later, so obviously, having the benefit of 30 years experience or been established, we've had a few different agencies on, that maybe done X, Y, Z, anything from a standing start in 2 or 3 years. But obviously, if you've been established for quite some time, there's the benefit of that, reputation, network, built, you're known, there's probably work you did 20 years ago from a guy that's recommended you 50 times, since, and gone on to do all different things. But just staying with the staff and the team piece, so obviously, you're well known in the industry. Well known as specialists in these areas. So you're attracting the staff potentially and attracting the team. Is there anything specific you do at Absolute to retain your team and to sort of look after the team and build the culture within the business?
I think that's the culture is the key one. I think that's the reason why we've kept a lot of staff as long as they have. Ross, who is our director of design, he's been with us like 14, 15 years. And I think, giving people that autonomy and trusting them to do their jobs. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it has its downsides sometimes and sometimes bites you, but I think people respect that. Yeah. And just having that culture and trying to keep that sort of team camaraderie. Don't get me wrong, a lot of agencies have really struggled with that, with the sort of new world of working. And we do the usual things, try and get the team out and try and be really flexible with like people's out, they've got to work, but they've also got to have a sort of social life, and they've got to have a life outside of work. So we try and keep a good balance with that as well, and understand that people have, got to go to appointments, they've got to look after their kids, whatever it might be. And I think if you make it nice like that, it's hard for people to go, oh, I really don't like it here.
If you can't be much more flexible than you are, it's like, well, that's a great place to work, isn't it? The fact that I can do what I want within reason. Obviously, that's extreme. But the work's got to get done. I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier actually, and a friend of theirs has gone to a new position, and they have to be in the office 5 days a week, and it's like a trust thing. It's like, oh, that sounds quite a tricky place to work. To be fair,
really is. And I think we transitioned really early to being basically fully remote. Since I've been there, I kind of with the team we try and get everyone in once a month to the office to build a bit of glue, and we have a lot of regular calls between the team and stuff like that. But I think people have enjoyed not having that horrible commute, and I think you risk losing talent if you've not got some flexibility. I think agencies that allow a bit of a hybrid approach, I think that's a good place to be as well. But I think just a hard stop is, don't get me wrong, even last week I had one of my team saying, I've got a friend, his agency that he's working at have basically just changed the rules, and they've all got to come back to the office, and now he's looking for someone else. You will lose talent, I think, at the moment if you can't be a little bit flexible.
Completely. It's an interesting one. Those are the sort of, so so you have a location you can go to, but the remote first.
Yes.
And then you have certain days you have to be, or you're meant to be in, or...
So we're really looking, as much as we've got a proper bricks and mortar office. The company owns it, has owned it for a long time, outright. And it's a massive space. And track back a few years, it was a high buzzing, all the rest of it. And don't get me wrong, there are people in the office all the time, but we don't enforce everyone that is practically able to come into the office more than once a month. We have got some developers that are living on the South Coast, for example. We don't expect them to travel in. There's not really much point in doing so, but we do try to get to meet all the team, get them all together, etc.
So you do like what, a quarterly sort of social type thing? Or?
Yeah, so we'll generally do it's quite a thing in this industry, I guess, but we'll go out for a meal, some sort of activity. Yeah. I think people really like that.
Yeah.
Everyone jumps on it.
What's been the best day out you think you've had, or after, or event you've done for the team?
We've done axe throwing, which was quite
fun.
Yeah. Because we did go out for a few drinks before, which was probably not super sensible.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the other way around, I think, Josh.
but no, it was good. And I think we're organising another one. We're doing like a mini golf type thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we're just trying to do something a bit light-hearted and fun. And don't get me wrong, like me, myself included, I've got a young family, and actually just getting out socially, whether it's for work or not, it's just a nice bonus, really.
Yeah, sort of I've got memories of us doing axe throwing. Actually, it was quite amusing, to say the least. Like watching the bounce outs.
I think that was it. The slight danger to it kind of adds to the camaraderie, I think.
But I do remember they don't sell alcohol at the one I went to.
Well, they didn't.
Because I think it is like a legal thing, isn't it? Yeah, let's have like 5 beers and then let's do axe throwing. It's not going to last very long. So obviously. 30 years in business, a long time, probably one of the oldest, companies in the industry, fantastic. But driving new business, obviously you've got the benefit of that sort of historical, 30 years, pedigree, a lot of recommendations, I assume. But I know you do a lot with sort of your partner network and something that you spend a lot of your day-to-day, when you're... Well, I guess a two-pronged question. How important is your partner network and your partners to your business, and how do you then go about sort of selecting and sort of deciding which partners to work with?
I think it's a great question, because it's a battle that we all have, I guess. I think I look at some of our partners are probably clients, in as much as they just give us work because they're long-standing. They really appreciate us as a team, and there's some personal outside of work relationships that have been built because the long relationships that they've had. And I think it's a tricky one. We've had partners that I've sort of known in the industry before I even came to Absolute, that I've kind of kept in touch with. And got you get on really well, and people it's that cliche, isn't it? People, in fact, David is one of the directors always says people by people, and it's true. If you build sort of a network and you already get on, and to be honest, that's why we want to come into the office, isn't it? You enjoy the time you spend with partners and colleagues, and getting to do some really fun things together. And I think off the back of that, we've had some great client wins. In both directions. Like, we trust some of our partners explicitly, so that you're like, look, these are the guys. We know they're going to do the right thing for you, and that we don't want to risk a big account giving us the wrong person. So one of the key things that we always look for in a partner is they've got to add value, no doubt about it. And I think a lot of partnerships from other agencies have probably sold partnership sort of referrals and things for the wrong reasons. But we are always like, right, does it add value to our client? And are the team the right fit? Are they pushy? Are they going to gel with kind of the clients that we've got, etc.? Because there are partners out there that I think are probably their sales teams are a bit aggressive and all the rest of it. And we just avoid that. And the partners, more recently, we've had like a payment partner. In fact, they kindly sponsored the event. And we just sort of gel with their team. Get on really well with them, can drop them a line anytime and they'll help out. And I think that has been really tricky to find in the partner space, especially. If there's a tech problem or there's something I need to just escalate because I need to get it done, I know that I can trust them. And off the back of that, we've done some great work together. But finding the right ones is really hard.
There's so many, isn't there? I mean, I think which is good. You go to the e-com space particularly, it seems to be really good at the moment in terms of events. There's a lot of key people driving it. Well, a lot of people driving events, and you could probably go to an event every other day, I think, now in the UK for sure. And it's something I know we're both sort of investing in a lot, and to drive our businesses. And I know a lot of other people that we know in the sort of our circles, I guess, and similar circles are doing similar. So it's obviously choosing the events to meet the people. But then when you meet the people, the potential partners, I think like you said there, some of them are obviously quite salesy, which I think is a complete turn off personally. It's like, there was a chap we spoke to called Ari, which is a great guy, but he is a big opponent of the win without pitching sort of methodology, and that's very much how we run our business. We don't sort of sell, but of course we sell. We have to sell, as we're not here. But it's leading with value, be great people, help them if we can help people, and then it's like, well, actually these guys might be quite nice to deal with, maybe. And it's right, buy my shit. It's like, hang on a minute, whoa, and you see it. I understand some people are, they're maybe targeted and driven commercially because of bonuses and things like that, but it's a complete turn off, isn't it? I think so many newer agency owners sort of get that wrong, or maybe not doing it for a while, but it's not because they're not probably able to do it the other way, just maybe a little bit more, how can we put it, a little bit more desperate maybe to...
I think there's that element that some partners have incentivized referrals quite aggressively as well. And I don't think that brings out necessarily the right sort of mentality for some people to sell. And it's one of the reasons why we've kind of lost out in the Adobe Commerce space, probably, is we haven't aggressively sold Adobe Commerce as a product as much as we probably could have done. But we've kind of weighed up our client needs probably a bit too... Well, not too much, but I think we just care. And I think we've been up against some really big agencies in the last couple of years. And we've won accounts because they've liked us as a team. They've liked that we're not too big. They can still talk to the senior team on a day-to-day basis if they need to. And they like us and kind of who we are as individuals. And I think that's a big one. I think some of the big agencies, they almost become a little bit too corporate and a bit too detached. And some of even big brands kind of are like, we're not sure that's going to work day to day, because they want to be able to just, if they need to pick up the phone and talk to you, they want to be able to just get through to someone senior if they need to. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't happen that often, but they know they've got that option.
I think that sort of size of agency, obviously we're on an agency intensive about scaling, and we've talked in the past few episodes, the different plateaus, but headcount and size of agency, we're very similar agency size, 20, 25, depending on, 25. I think we're at 25 with our sort of handful of contractors that are full-time as well. And I think you're similar headcount and team size. And it's like you say, certain companies are looking for a certain sort of, almost like nothing... a 100-person agency almost has got a preconceived feel that it's going to maybe lose that personal touch. It doesn't always, obviously, but having a certain size where you haven't just got one really good developer. You've got half a dozen. You've got 3 or 4 ridiculous tech guys that can do X, Y, Z. You've got an insane 4, 5, 6 customer service, the tickets that are coming through. You've got a really experienced senior leadership team. There's something to be said, I think, for that sort of, whether that's 20, 30 sort of headcount. And I think I think we win or work with very similar sized businesses, don't we? And for that reason, where we win, some very big, I would say, clients that we know that they're going to go off and have a look at some of these bigger agencies, but I think they like our team, and they actually think, those guys, they really know what they're doing, and they actually really give a damn, and they really care, and all the different departments are very well connected, rather than maybe siloed over here, and these guys don't speak to these guys. But trying to keep that sort of size, I think it's a sort of a decision that a lot of agency owners have to decide. And right, we've got to 10, right, we're going to get to 20, then we're going to get to 30, then we're going to get to 50. Whoa. As an agency owner, what would you say to those guys that are, looking at sort of the head count and where to keep it? What would you say?
I think that's an interesting one, because I think some people want to grow it to a certain size because they want to do a particular thing. So it might be an agency owner that wants to grow it big enough that they can then silo themselves off to go and do whatever they want, grow the business and do nothing else. I actually really enjoy being involved with clients, and some of the really big projects that we've got, I'm actively involved with, and I like to be involved in like the strategy meetings and all that side of it, because I really enjoy adding value, or hopefully adding value to clients. And I'm probably sort of a 50-50 introvert extrovert, but I actually do enjoy spending time talking about the subjects that I'm knowledgeable on.
Yeah.
And I sort of get a lot of value out of then seeing those conversations then progress into something great for the customers. And I think if you get too big, you don't probably have the same capacity to do that, because you're going to be probably more distracted.
Yeah.
Trying to manage a much bigger agency. Like HR becomes a massive thing, doesn't it? When you've got a headcount like that. HR's a massive thing anyway, because there's always something going on. And I think that's a decision you've got to make about the lifestyle. I think you probably want
as the owner or shareholder, etc. Yeah.
So
are you do you want to take a bit of a sit back, or do you want to keep going? Lots of. So jumping back to events for a second, then obviously I know we recently, a few weeks ago, did an event, and we've got another event coming up. So I think the agency owners that are listening now, thinking about maybe launching or doing their own events or working with partners, what makes up a successful event for you?
I think a successful event for me is sort of building that community.
Yeah.
I think the reason why we sort of partner with you guys to do one in this particular area, and no doubt it'll expand, is because I don't think you necessarily understand the skills and the amazing sort of agencies that are on your doorstep. And I think building a network with those people gives you sometimes an outlet to go, hang on a minute, I've got this client, they come to me, and actually they need this really niche thing. We've got no idea how to do it, but actually I do know the guys over here.
Yeah.
And I think that's really nice, because you're adding value back. And also I think most of the people in our industry, if you have got a really sort of tricky decision to make, or you're not quite sure strategically on something, a lot of these people, you could reach out to them and go, can we go for a coffee and have a bit of a chat?
Yeah.
And actually you can benefit from that. And I think that lunch event that we did, and there was some really frank and honest conversations.
Yeah.
Some really, great minds that have been in agency world for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think you'd be silly not to want to try and absorb that knowledge.
Yeah.
And you can absorb it from so many different channels. But I think actually being sat around a table and actually being able to converse with all of these people, you're almost accelerating your learning, I think.
Yeah.
And I've been to quite a few. And, some of them have been run by some really big names in the industry, and I've always got great value from it. And I've always made a few connections, had a few chats, bumped into them again, and we've done some work together. And I think that's the nice part that is a bit of a spin-off. But the primary thing is kind of just getting to know everyone that's around you and learning from them, really.
Yeah, I think it's a great industry we're in, where I think some industries, they're sort of very isolated and want to speak to competitors. But obviously, it's a huge, our industry, huge. You specialise in what you specialise in, we specialise, but there's a lot of crossover in terms of ultimately we're working with people that are selling things online. And then then you can bring in another sort of half a dozen, tech partners, another half a dozen skills that neither of us have in our businesses, that then next thing you know, there's like maybe 15 people that are core to the success of scaling that e-com store. So if you're listening now and you're building websites for solicitors or whatever it may be, then knowing that industry and having partners in that industry, I think is so key. So go into events firstly in that industry, but then obviously looking at creating your own events or working with partners like we do to run, whether that's getting 6 people in a room, it can be, or obviously scaling that. So, we've got something coming up with a couple of 100 people sort of after the summer here in the UK. But it doesn't start there. You start with, whether that's, half a dozen people sit around a boardroom like this, whether you rent a nice space for a lunch or a dinner. But for the guys that are listening and thinking, I really would like to start running events, or, a private dining experience sounds so much nicer.
Yep.
Any advice you would give to them about getting people to come to events, like what we refer to as bums on seats?
Yep.
We see that as maybe a bit of an overshare. I get told off for oversharing on these podcasts, but the number one thing in our business is bums on seats.
Yep.
And that's what we call it. If we can get people to events, whether there are events or other events we go to, and help get people to events, we will be successful. Everything else is taken care of, is the way I sort of see it. Because if we can get 10 or 100 people in front of our team and in front of the the people that work here and just talking about what we do and what they do. And we're very confident in the ability of the team to just prevail a good image of the brand, and those that might want to work with us might do, and those that don't really like us might not, and that's fine as well. But getting people in front of, at events, any advice you would give to getting people to events?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I've sort of discovered over the last probably couple of years. So we're trying to do some bigger events to grow our network more broadly, and then doing the much more targeted events to then see kind of where those conversations go.
Yeah.
And I think actively reaching out to people that you would like to attend those events has been a real key one.
Yeah.
So, some of the broader events that we're running, we'll open it to sort of everyone, but we'll share it, and a lot of our network is kind of, in that industry. So some people will naturally migrate to it, which is great.
Yeah.
And then actually reaching out and going, look, I really appreciate you being there, because they're going to add value, or they're going to get some value from it.
Yeah.
Is really good. And I think the agency intensive model, again, it's reaching out to maybe agencies that you've kind of been aware of, and just saying, in fact, we did it with this last one. I was like, most people that we contacted directly were like, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to come, and we'll come to the next one if I can't come to this one. And I think just doing that and being a little bit targeted with it naturally then comes, and people go, oh, would you mind if I bring so-and-so, or, and then it kind of, that natural ebb and flow of people sharing it. Yeah. You've got to kind of do a bit of all of it to get the right bums on seats, I think.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant advice. Ultimately inviting people, getting off your backside and making a phone call, or going, hey, we're running an event. We'd love you to go. Oh, blimey, they've asked me. So I think, that goes from, like you say, it could be 5 or 6, 7, 8 people, and then they, and then the social media from those events. That I think if you maybe get 10 people in a room, there'll be another 50 that's seen that on social. God, what's that about? What is that? So for those that are listening now, our agency intensive lunches that we do, go to the website agencyintensive.com. There'll be an area on there around events. You'll be able to fill in, interest in our events, and we might see some of our listeners at some of the agency intensive lunches and bigger events that we're planning sort of for the later in the year and next year. So events obviously key. I know obviously you're out. I see you're out of a lot of different events, and so here, completely agree. We talk about events a lot on the podcast and on the other podcast. Nothing better than ultimately meeting people and sort of having a good conversations. But just going back to the sort of team piece, I'm intrigued to know around your sort of at this certain headcount, 2025, similar to us, and it's there's then this sort of idea that we're trying to build profitability, for example, with this headcount. We're in a similar space. We believe we can add about 25%, this year with the same headcount. That's a huge amount, in terms of profitability, improving the profitability. Do you have certain things in the business that how you measure productivity, like time tracking, how do you sort of measure productivity within your agency?
So it's obviously different across the teams, because they work in different ways. And as an agency, we've always, for a long time, been an hours-based business.
Yep.
Our developers and our designers are all fee earners, so they all post their time, and we use a well-known platform in the industry. We use Synergist.
Yeah.
So they post their time, and we run reports, obviously monthly. I'll run probably one every week, just to kind of see how the time posting going, and obviously take into account people's leave and sickness and all the rest of it. But we kind of have a bit of a minimum requirement of what we want our support developers to be posting, what we want our project developers to be posting, and what we want our designers to be posting.
And that's an amount of billable hours, because there's billable work.
Well, we have billable and non-chargeable. So we'll even if they're working on internal stuff, they'll be posting their time, because we need to know they're doing stuff for us internally.
But that would be classed as unbillable, not billable.
Yeah. So that comes on the reports. And you don't get me wrong, if we decided as a business to make a strategic decision to build a new website for ourselves, we're going to see a lot more non-billable. But we do monitor that, and if we see kind of sort of a slip in the amount posted or whatever, we'll obviously dig into those and have a chat.
So do individuals have a targeted billable amount of hours they've got to do per week, month? And
So as a guide, and hopefully not oversharing, I'm sure I'm not, because it's very similar to a lot of agencies. Our support developers, we like them to post around about 100 hours a month each. Our project developers, some of them will be posting 150, 160, because they by nature of the work, they're just working on
head down,
going through it. Support is you're picking bits up and down. It takes
gap
time
between.
Exactly. And people have got, they've got to have a life as well at work, so we don't push them too hard. We're not expecting them to build like 8 hours a day every day. It's just unrealistic, isn't it? We're quite sort of sensible with that. And then I think the other teams in the business, like sales team, we've got metrics around sort of new business and things like that. And because we're small enough that we work so closely with our sales and marketing guy, and I do a bit myself, and some of the other directors do as well. We've got a good sort of monitor on the volume of stuff going through. I think one of the big sort of things that we have to really pull back on is actually how much sort of events, outreach, all the rest of it. We almost are too productive at kind of doing that kind of stuff, and sometimes we take a step back and go, we need to sort of look at focusing on, I don't know, a bit more direct sales or whatever it might look like, because we don't track our time in the same way. And I think that's something that I've been looking to probably improve this year, because we use Monday and things like that to track sort of marketing activities and marketing plans and all the rest of it. We don't necessarily put silos of sort of time or effort against some of those areas. So that's definitely, we're all striving to kind of make ourselves more efficient, and I think that's something we're definitely looking at. And actually that agency lunch event that we did, there was a lot shared exactly around this topic. And I've already kind of started looking into kind of some recommendations. And so it's not just that you go into those agency intensive lunches to learn about one particular thing. It might be like the pain points of the business. It might be actually the successes of using particular tools and platforms. And actually people are quite happy to share those. We're like, actually, this has been like pivotal in making our business 50% more productive, whatever it might be. And they're happy to share, because they want some validation that this is great. And all their peers are going, hang on a minute, how have you managed to do that?
Some little custom tweak with the time tracking. I think time tracking, is the same in our business, but obviously sales and marketing is a little bit trickier to, you're not tracking billable work, you're tracking time on whether that's on this event, this social media piece, this LinkedIn piece, this podcast now as a 3-hour trip to Lincoln, and then track that back to a return as obviously it's nigh on impossible. It might be, stepping back in a year, you go, oh, that podcast was the best thing I ever did. Maybe. That agency intensive was so busy. But obviously it's easier with developers and customer service and design and all the different, whether agencies are listening and delivering social media, SEO. But obviously that's sales and marketing. But then I think you do have to, obviously, whether that's quarterly, sit and look at that sales and marketing activity. Where do the leads come from? Okay, in dev, some of those lead times can be quite long, can't they? It's not like they're buying a couple of grand thing. They might be buying $100,000 rebuild or whatever. So it might be a 12-month process from initially meeting them, and then have an initial sit down just to have a little debrief and plan and cost exercise, and then for another 3 months, it can be a year, can't it? So it's a little bit more challenging on the sales and marketing, but ultimately, I think after you've maybe done events for 12 months, you get a real good feel for it, don't you? And then you can go, blimey, actually, this is really good, but we know we can't go and do an event next week and expect 50k back or whatever the numbers are the following week, which I think with events can be a bit of a tricky one, because some of them, if you're going to them, can be quite expensive, like the events that you pay to go to. And we've sort of recalibrated our budgets to do more of our own stuff where we have more control and the costs are less. We can work with partners to spread those costs. Whereas when you go to the big events and you're paying to be one of dozens of, whether that's agencies or whatever, they're very expensive, aren't they? So
they really are. I think we're in the same boat with that we've done the big expos and all of the things, and because I've got a marketing background, we're always wanting to try the next thing, because that's how marketing works. You keep trying things, and eventually something will stick, won't it? And we've done exactly the same. We've kind of put that budget into doing some more events, sort of investing back into maybe a bit more of our local area, rather than kind of going to the big London events and hoping that people are going to happen upon your stand and you might have to have a conversation. I think we've already seen sort of good returns on that. And I think I suppose the other side of the business that I don't want to forget about is like the client-facing team, like the account managers, the project managers. We try to give everyone kind of a bit of an even share of different types of clients, and we'll probably put like a bit of an effort scale against each of them. So everyone's got like 2 or 3 big accounts and so a few small ones.
Yeah,
because we need to be fair that they're manageable, and we push really heavily.
It's also managing the risk internally, isn't it? If a team member was to whatever may happen to that person, leave or something else more permanent. Spreading that risk.
So we do evaluate that regularly. Yeah, and we do that in support, and we also do it in projects. So we'll kind of have once a month we'll have a bit of a helicopter view of kind of what's going on through the business. Yeah. The size of the accounts, amount of hours that are in them, and potentially how not demanding, but how the comms level on that account can be, because some clients want sort of a really sort of intense comms level, I guess, by the nature of what they're doing. Yeah. So we do kind of evaluate all these things, but we're always looking for the next sort of thing as to how to project the sort of the current work, the sort of groundswell of clients coming back wanting more, improving their offering, and the pipeline, and it's difficult for all of us, right? We're always kind to trying to make that as good as we can, and we do use CRMs. I think we're using Monday at the moment, just seeing kind of how that works with
on the CRM side.
Yeah, just seeing. So we it can do a lot of things, but we do put all our leads in there, and and try and get a picture of what might land. But it so
you can forecast. You've got a feel for timelines and things will drop, and you can forecast workflow, recruitment potentially you might need. So any specific tools that your agency couldn't run without? I think obviously the agencies of all different disciplines. Obviously you're more dev and design and that side. There's different tools that I think your side of the industry use more than our side on the marketing. But you've mentioned Monday. What would be another 2 tools your business couldn't run on without?
So definitely Monday, because we've really got sort of the benefit from that. Synergist, which is obviously the one where we do all of our financials, all of our time tracking, of our invoicing, etc. I think that's key with the sort of business model that we've got, because we're billable hours. It has to be tight. The processes around it are very strict. We want to make sure we capture as many sort of hours as we possibly can. We don't want them to fall through the net, because that's our profit, right? And then probably so we do have a ticketing system, and historically we've had sort of it's an open source one that we've kind of then evolved. It's a platform called Mantis. It's quite simple, but it works really efficiently for our support team. Our support team use that, and it's sort of the go-to. And actually we're struggling, and we've looked. So in projects we're trying to kind of build out Jira to see if that kind of improves it. It being a bit more, by the nature of the development going for projects, tends to be a bit more complex. We don't think we're sort of convinced on that yet, and I always forget the name, but the one that JetBrains do, we're looking at that because there was a key feature in that we needed that they didn't have, and I think in the last 6 months that's been rolled out. So we're constantly looking at what platform could kind of improve our efficiencies, and some of the agencies that were at that last lunch event, they've had the same pain points. They've been building their own custom ones. One, because it can save a lot of money, because some of these platforms are quite expensive. Especially the ones that have got licensing models around headcount, etc. And also they wanted them all to be connected, and that's one of the things that we probably struggled with, is we haven't necessarily got them all connected as well as we could. And I think we definitely want to improve that, because you kind of doing more work by updating multiple platforms. And I think we're far from the finished product.
Yeah, it's an evolving thing, isn't it? An agency where you try the various different, let's say, CRM, for example. We probably had like 7 in our agency, and we're very happy with where we are now. But it doesn't do everything, and I think that's the thing. Not one platform maybe will do everything that you want it to do. So then there becomes some sort of custom piece connecting, whether it's an API from here or a Looker Studio thing, pulling everything from. And I think we've landed on a pretty solid tech stack, but still we are connecting things. Our own tech guys are connecting this to build this, and it's but it is an evolving thing. But ultimately, you've got to be able to track the work that you're doing, the time. If you're tracking time, that's we could debate time over projects, that sort of thing. But I think, we're time, very much so. But some hours are worth a lot more than others. So we have team members on different hourly rates based on experience and what department they're in. But we have an agency rate, that is our agency rate. But then we have probably 5 or 6 or 7 of the team that are on a lot more than that per hour. So tracking that time, tracking those tasks. But then, as you say, there's things like the pipeline, tracking where the pipeline is so you can forecast that. Obviously, there's the whole sort of cash of the side of the account side of the business, tying all that in. It's an interesting set of dashboards, which is very much where we are, sort of a series of dashboards that represent each department, and an overriding dashboard for all departments sort of added together. I've just, as you know, had nearly a month off, and those dashboards were my sort of touch point with the business. It was a bit of a test for the business and for me, really, to be able to disconnect for nearly a month. But I have on my phone the dashboards of the business, so I think it's an area when you're looking as an agency owner, what tools, it's thinking a little bit bigger picture. What do you want, the nitty-gritty day-to-day, we need to be able to get this project done, but then what's the bigger picture with that dashboard? What are you going to be able to do with it? Will it connect to this, and this? But yeah, I feel like we could go on for another hour, Josh.
We could.
But I think last couple of questions. Obviously, 30 years in business is a long, long time. Even 10 years in this game is a hell of a long time. In that time, the time you've been with the agency, I would imagine it doesn't always go the right way. No. Whether that's invested in this event that was shocking, an event, not our event, obviously. But what would be one of the biggest sort of challenges, mistakes that you've seen in your time at Absolute, and what did you learn from it?
I think it's probably quite a common one, and what I've been involved in it a few times, is probably not transitioning some of the team out of the business soon enough. Yeah. So I think you've taken someone on that on paper's exactly what you need. Yeah. You've given them the benefit of the doubt, and probably the benefit of the doubt, and a bit more. And I think being quicker at kind of bringing that to a close is less disruptive for the wider business as well. And don't get me wrong, it's difficult because you want to give people ample time and opportunity to kind of show their worth, and with complex development, sometimes that's quite difficult to kind of get to straight away. I think and I think we've all all the directors involved are all in that same position, that we've all collectively gone, let's see how it goes, and actually we should have all gone, hang on a minute, we need to bring it to close. It's the right thing for the business, and it's also the right thing for the individual, because you obviously try not to make it personal, but you always feel about people's livelihood and what they're going to do, etc. But actually, if they're not in the right role with you, they're wasting their time as well. So it's better. It's the right thing to everyone involved, really.
Yeah, the people bit is always a tricky bit. I think that's where there's quite a common thread in agencies of the sort of size we're talking about. The people bit. You hire somebody, they're a cracking interview. Nice guy, nice lady. Brilliant. They've come on board. Actually, there's a few little warning signs on day 5. It's like, hang on a minute.
Remote working.
We're on day 5. It's like, this shouldn't be. That was a bit of an awkward thing that was said, and the way we responded to that, and so it's having those awkward, challenging conversations early doors, I think is what you're saying, to make some quite tough decisions quick.
I think it's made it harder because of the remote working. Because if you're in the office with them the whole time, pre-COVID world, you would probably pick up the cues a lot quicker. And I think we've had it with people that you're not necessarily quite sure what they're doing. And I'm not saying that they definitely have been doing other things, but there's that sort of element of doubt. And I think maybe you struggle to support people as well as if they're in the office. So I think it's probably just made it a little bit harder to know when to sort of to move really on it.
No, I think that's a great point. So hiring, firing, very tricky, or the firing piece can be. What about firing clients? You've got you've done all these these amazing events, and you've took on what you thought was going to be your next biggest client, and then you're getting some sort of warning signs that actually these guys maybe could be a bloody nightmare.
I mean, it happens, doesn't it? And I think we've been in a position where we've had it happen. Like it happens, to everyone.
Yeah.
And we always protect the team first and foremost. And if we've got a client that is, being hostile or rude to the team or whatever it might be, it's just a zero tolerance.
Yeah.
So we'll jump on that instantly.
Yeah.
And the senior team will get involved and basically make it quite clear that this behaviour is stopping right now. Yeah. Thankfully, it's like once in a blue moon that it's that sort of scale of it.
Yeah.
The one that we get more of is where clients are just maybe they're just not understanding necessarily of kind of the nature of the site they've got. It might be a new team that come in.
Yeah.
Trying to educate and bring those newer team members on board is one of the skills, I think, of it, especially with Magento, because a lot of people, it's a bit Marmite, isn't it? A lot of people just hate it. And that's one of our biggest day-to-day battles. And, don't get me wrong, we'll sometimes onboard a support client and they just won't listen to our process. And we're quite, we're not rigid in as much as we will be as flexible as we can, but we have a process there for a reason.
There's a way you need to submit a ticket and there's a timeline that's expected and it's Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. You might not get a response by 5 past,
Exactly. And the process is there to protect us, but it's also there to protect them. Because if you, like, we've had it quite recently, actually, where a client is wanting us to sort of circumvent the process and for us to do things on their live server, turn things off without any context, all this kind of stuff. And we very much have to push back and go, look, we're happy to do it.
Yeah,
but we need to ask some questions, take a step back. And I think sometimes it's where teams just haven't got the breadth of knowledge to understand the impact those decisions they're making. And it can be tricky. It can be really hard. And I think that's one of the parts of the job that I actually probably enjoy the most is actually going through that journey with a client that, not necessarily being difficult, but they only know what they know. And they think, maybe we're delaying them, for a reason, and we're not.
But that's an opportunity to build a relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas you could see it as a bit of they're not doing what we had to do. Well, hang on, let's spend a bit more time with them. So that's where a good sort of, whether that's, the sales person, that's got the deal in, or the customer service, the education, the onboarding, that initial month or two. I had a similar conversation with a SaaS owner only yesterday, actually, sort of talking about onboarding people right, because obviously you get the bit of work over the line, and it's, no doubt it's a great bit of work for both sides, but things can soon go wrong in that first month or so just by a simple misunderstanding that's usually nothing, but it's just not been dealt with, discussed. I put this ticket in and did it. Well, no, it's not, we don't put tickets there, we put them there. That's a simple thing, but that could be the thing that then there was no response. Well, it wasn't the system that we showed you. You logged into the old one or whatever. Just a simple sort of nice, tight onboarding, understanding. The front end. Well, it's been a pleasure, Josh, having you on.
Thank you for having me.
12 months from now, what's on the horizon, on the roadmap for Absolute Design?
So I think it's obviously the wild west of platforms at the moment, and I think we're pivoting more and more on Shopify, backing that as a platform.
Yeah.
We've got some big accounts coming onto that, and I think off the back of that and building our partnership with Shopify, that's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
Our events are upping their ante this next 12 months. So we've got an event, a regular event going on in Nottingham, as part of the Ecom Collab Club.
Yeah.
People will have seen, I'm sure. And we're trying to just build a bit more of a community, just to get a bit more, add a bit more back, but also get a bit more back from the community around us.
Yeah.
I think, we're just looking to constantly improve our processes and, invest back into kind of the business and the people that are in it, really.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure. I like to end every episode with a book recommendation, Josh. Do you have a book that you recommend to us?
And this has been recommended by quite a few people in the industry quite recently. I think the book's been around 2 or 3 years, but I've only just got around to, I bought it ages ago, and I've only just got around to reading it. And it's the Human Powered by Trenton Moss. And I found it really interesting because he's from an agency background, and now he does a lot more coaching and in that side of the business. He's got, I think he's set up a business doing it. But there's a lot of pain points and sort of learnings and ways to look at things that are quite useful in that book. And I think I don't always get a chance to kind of take a step back and go, hang on a minute, I know we're doing an all right job at most things, but actually and we've thought about this particular thing that we're doing and the way we approach it. And I think a book is quite a nice place to kind of add a bit of perspective, and that I really appreciate you reading it, but I haven't quite got to the end of it yet. And it's one of those that I like, the classic. I try and read a few pages every day around sort of family life, etc. And watching rubbish on telly, which I need to tone down. Yeah.
Watch that or read this.
But it's a good recommendation, and I know that quite a few of the sort of bigger agency owners and things have read it as well, and sort of get
fantastic.
value out of it.
Well, we'll link that up in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the show. For those that want to find out more about you, more about Absolute Design, what's the best way to do that?
So you can go to our website, absolute-design.co.uk, or feel like want to get in touch on LinkedIn, please do.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast, so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.